Good evening, and welcome to the City of Twinsburg regularly scheduled council meeting for October 11th. The time is 7:33. Shannon, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mrs. Labby?
Here.
Mr. Post?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Okay, at this time, could we please stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance led by Mrs. Walker?
Thank you. Father God, in your name, you guide and govern everything with order and love. Look upon the assemblies of our city leaders, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vanzano, Mrs. Labby, Mr. Post, Mr. Fury, Mr. Bellin, and your child, Mrs. Walker, and fill them with spirit of your wisdom. May they always act in accordance with your will, and their decisions be for the peace and well-being of all. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. We need to look at the approval of the minutes for September 27th. Has anybody had a chance to review the minutes? Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Post seconds. Is there any discussion? Shannon, would you call the roll?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, the motion to approve the minutes is passed unanimously. We're on to awards and presentations. Mr. Scafidi, are we having a presentation tonight?
We are, but this portion, we're going to have Waste Management come up. We have Brian Johnson here.
Okay, great. Hi, Mr. Johnson. How are you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Thank you for having me here. I'm actually here on behalf of Waste Management, as everyone knows, and Vince Crawford would typically be here, but I'm here to represent operations and cover a few points for him and give you guys a little bit more knowledge into some of the things that we've been working on and some new technology available.
Thank you.
No problem. First and foremost, we actually have a video to talk a little bit about how we're going to try to help with recycling and educating consumers and residents. Are we able to play that video now? Yeah.
We all know it's a good idea to recycle. But what happens to that aluminum can or all that paper after you put it in the recycling bin? Where does it go? What does it become in its second life? How does this water bottle become a backpack, jeans or shoes, or even a WM shirt? Let's find out. This is a material recovery facility, or a MRF, and this is where the real work of recycling begins. Here at the MRF, the WM trucks unload all their material onto what we call the tip floor. Next up, a trip to a massive conveyor belt that takes all this material to a pre-sort room. Here's where sorters work by hand to remove stuff that should not go into your curbside recycling bin. Stuff like batteries, plastic bags, Christmas lights, clothes, pretty much anything that can clog or break the MRF's equipment, or worse, hurt one of the employees. Now that we've minimized contaminants, the real sorting can begin. Cups, cans, containers, and bottles are separated from newspaper and other paper materials. Then comes the eddy current. This part is pretty cool. An electric current zaps the aluminum off the conveyor belt and into a metal-only stream. All these materials are separated and compacted into bales, like hay bales. Forklifts move the bales into a finished product area where they're inspected for quality. Once they get the thumbs up, these bales of metal, plastic, and paper are shipped around the country to different companies that'll give them a second life by turning them into new stuff. This process is all about creating this circular economy where everything is being reused and recycled so that less stuff ends up in a landfill. Last year, WM recycled 10 million tons of material across 103 facilities like this one across the country. That's amazing. But we can do even more, and you can help by recycling right.
Thank you. So, outside of just helping people understand exactly what happens with the recycling and how to recycle the right way, one of the biggest things that's going to be changing in the area is the implementation of our new state-of-the-art MRF. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's getting added to the back of our building in Oakwood Village. It's going to be, that was the most brand new state-of-the-art MRF that the company had, and this is going to be the newest one, and it should open sometime Q1 of 2023. $30 million capital investment, and it's state-of-the-art technology. You'll be able to identify new material that can be recycled and continue to take that waste stream out of landfills and different facilities like that. So it's going to be great for the earth, great for your residents, great for just communities in general. The one thing that's really going to be nice about it, and in talking with your environmental partners, this facility is going to have an education center. And that's one thing that we haven't been able to really help out with schools and city councils and things like that in the past, because it was really just our material facility, and where it was getting recycled, there's no one there to help explain what was going on. You just kind of got to see the conveyor belts. But this is actually going to have an educational center aspect to it, which will help with, again, schools can go through there, city councils. You guys will be given the knowledge that you might need to answer any questions, and just give us a lot of information that we could share via social media and different things like that to give the residents the answers to some of the questions I know they've been asking. So that's something that we would definitely like to get out there a couple times a year on your social media, just to get a little bit more knowledge of what goes on with the recycled material. It should be pretty easy to do. Just get it on your Facebook and Instagram pages. Just a quick, I think it was about 2.5 minutes or so. So it answers a lot of questions. Most people know what can be recycled. They just don't know what happens to it after it does, right? So it's a very good video. A couple other changes that we now have on our residential trucks that we didn't as of 4 months ago is the implementation of what's called the Third Eye system. So the Third Eye system is great for a couple different things. If you start having some issues with customer service, we're actually able to recall the video to see what challenges might have occurred while that driver was operating down the street. Were there cars blocking it? Were there different challenges with construction that made it so we couldn't pick up the waste or the recycle? If a resident comes home and they notice that there might be some sort of yard damage or something, we can recall that footage to see if it was anything that we did or if something had happened after we were there, that type of thing. So it gives a lot more knowledge to us, and we can share that information as necessary, which helps reduce a lot. Real thing I wanted to talk about is oftentimes residents might come home and there's one reason or another, something didn't get taken. Well, what we've done is we've taken a outdated sticker that we used to have, and we've really enhanced it and changed it to be a little bit more self-explanatory of why maybe a waste item was left behind. And the sticker has about 10 different categories. Was the sticker able to make it in the presentation? I don't think so. Okay. So it doesn't show you the full face of it. There was a picture of the actual sticker, but he said he could add it to the actual presentation that gets in the official send out. But if you go back a little bit, one of the pictures on the very edge, that sticker for it right there, that sticker right there, not the one that explains recycling, but the one that's kind of a little bit smaller, 4x6 or so. On that sticker is 10 examples of why we might not have taken something, whether it wasn't broken down, maybe the glass was broken, maybe it was overweight, couldn't fit in the truck. There's 10 different examples of why we might not be able to, and what you should do to get that issue resolved, and who you can call to get a ticket for us to come back once it's been taken care of. That'll help a lot of again, we're trying to help solve the questions before they have to be asked of the city. So What we would like to do also with social media, because that's really the quickest way to get the information out there, before they encounter that sticker, letting them see that sticker and the reasons prior, maybe on social media through a couple different postings and learnings over the course of the next few months. So we would really like to be able to put that sticker again on social media, show a few examples of what each category means. That way somebody can already prepare on how to prepare their trash before it comes into an issue. So those are really the biggest talking points. Again, we're just trying to give a lot of knowledge to the community to help mitigate issues and really spread the news about the new MRF, because that's going to be really exciting for the whole area. It's going to be the #1 state-of-the-art recycling facility in all of Ohio, and we're all very much looking forward to it, especially that education center. That's going to really help. You start teaching the children at an early age, and they know how to do it right as they get older, and they spread it, and it's going to really help the cause there. So anything else I can answer for you while I'm here?
Any questions?
Yeah, that definitely. Like you said, it should be about Q1, and City Council for sure. We'd love to get everyone in there because knowledge is power, and give you guys a lot of the answers that you probably asked very commonly. So
is that where our trash will be processed?
the trash and the recycle will be going there. The trash ultimately ends up in American landfill, and then the recycling, it used to go to our Akron facility and then processed from there. Now it's going to all get dumped and processed all in that one facility.
Where's it going now?
Right now, it depends on what the commodity is. If it's cardboard, it goes one location. If it's glass, it goes somewhere else. It all depends
What
on
about
the bidding.
trash?
The trash, it goes to the transfer station, and then that ends up in American landfill.
In Oakwood.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Council, I forwarded you the sticker he was speaking of, so you guys have it in your email.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have Assistant Chief Bosso, are you doing a report or are you doing a presentation?
He's coming under the department.
Department head.
Not a problem. Yeah, I saw an Assistant Chief and a Chief. I got confused. So is there any more presentations?
There are none.
Okay. Next on our agenda is audience participation. Shannon, please call the first person.
First, we have Bill Romer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm State Representative Bill Romer, and it's a pleasure to be here again. And I say again because in 2008, I think was the first time I spoke to Twinsburg Council. And a few of the folks here are still the same then, which is really nice to see. One of the commitments I made is that I would go to every community every year where I serve, and I keep my commitments to do that. Through redistricting, my current district, the 38th district, has been modified. I extended at one time, as of now, from the Cuyahoga County line all the way down to the Tuscaroras County line. I am not going to have that Western Stark County portion, but what I will have, a whole lot closer to my home in Richfield, is Twinsburg, Reminderville, Macedonia, Northfield Village, Northfield Center, and Twinsburg Township. And I wanted to make sure that I came back here to reintroduce myself. Coincidentally, I'm always impressed by the technology at your council meetings. When I was serving on Summit County Council from 2010 to 2014, I brought the Summit County IT folks to Twinsburg because Mark and everybody else, we met with Mayor Prokop, did such a great job. I was so impressed with Twinsburg. I'm impressed in many other regards too. I've passed more legislation at the Ohio House than anybody else. One of the reasons is I give very short floor speeches because people don't want to hear me speak. Given that, thank you so much for your time. I'll be here after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Romer.
Next, we have Bob Hughes.
Bob Thews, 2229 Demi Drive in the Meadowood Plan. Something came up tonight at the meeting that Greg and I have talked about for quite some time, and that's the zoning code. And I haven't mentioned anything to him for a while, but it was 6 or 7 years ago that I was complaining about the zoning code, and I think at that time Mr. Fury made a comment that our code was out of sync with the state and had to be rewritten and was going to be rewritten, and that was fine. That was a great idea. Okay, from that standpoint, it needed to be. We did not meet it because of political signs. Well, it took more than a year or so to get rewritten. It took about 3 or 4 years to get rewritten. And Greg, once it was rewritten, was nice enough to give me a copy of it. It's a hot mess, okay? And from the standpoint, they took a relatively simple code and made it so complicated. It's good if you have at least 3 years of law to understand it, okay, from that standpoint. So what is being suggested here, and again, I've not talked to Greg, I've not talked to anybody else on the council about this, about rewriting that thing and getting it right, is absolutely mandatory and should have been done. At the time, it wasn't done right, but I wasn't about to complain after taking as long as I did. But it needs to be redone. It definitely needs to be put into a language that most of us can use. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thews. Shannon, can you call the next person, please?
Next, we have Steve Hummel.
Steve Hummel, 2500 Old Mill. The one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit is I stood up a couple of weeks ago about the complaint, and I should have brought up to caucus, but if somebody could get back to me on where we're at with the complaint with Lynn Muter and her actions and mine when they signed off on the Project Gumbo. So that's something I'd like to maybe hear about at some point here. You know, the other thing, you know, I noticed, and I brought up about traffic a little bit, and you know, I've been cutting across Middleton Road now to get over there. I just, you know, and it's going to get even worse on Old Mill. So I cut across Middleton. If I need to go to 8, I'll start going down Hines Hill. You know, we'll go everywhere. Hudson, everybody's going to be affected by this move. And I know that I read the traffic study on this issue, and if they were going to come onto Old Mill, then they need to do some auxiliary work within the township. One of the recommendations was extending the turn lane on Twinsburg Road another 400 feet down next to the Humane Society there. Now, I don't think the township wants to start hogging into that basin over there by the Humane Society. You know, you need to leave that set alone. You know, you just need to leave that alone. So I think there's a lot of things here. There's a traffic issue. That's why the council, in their infinite wisdom, or the planning commission years ago, said you need to go out to 91 if you ever subdivide this land. And you know, we all forget about that a little bit. I'll never forget about that. That should have never been overlooked. You know, instead of a beehive coming out onto Old Mill, they could have easily directed traffic onto 91. You wouldn't have to increase the turning lane off Twinsburg Road. You wouldn't have a bunch more traffic going on to Middleton trying to skirt that area, because that's an area that where people use, that's a commuting street. So there's a lot to think about there. And I think with those things being said and some other things, this issue with Sifron, I mean, I hate to say it, but I looked at Sifron's original plans. You know, in a month after, maybe not a month, but shortly thereafter, from an engineering perspective, I looked at all the stuff from the Planning Commission, then I looked at the plans that were submitted for the original building for Sifron. And to me, I hate to say it, but that was just a little bit of an oversight by whoever was reviewing to allow a sinuous road to run through there to get back to Sifron. I know they own the whole land, but there was an issue there with other subdividing, and that was a conditional thing with the Planning Commission. They should have run a straight shot road right along there, and they should have pushed that basin to the north. So they plopped that basin right in the way. I think it was very ill thought out in a design perspective, and that's not our fault. That was the protection of the residents on Old Mill. You know, on Old Mill, because people knew that if that ever got developed that way, that there was going to be a real mess on the Old Mill Road. And that's why they did that. Then Dempsey come in, surveyed, and all of a sudden now, plop, there's addresses on Old Mill Road for that. That shouldn't have happened. And we seem to all forget that. That came up when Kagler came in here, and we brought that up. I know it's a difficult thing, but that would be, these are one of the things that we wanted to talk about as residents and citizens along Old Mill. See, we never got that opportunity to really discuss this in a public forum. There's nothing been done like this because it was 45 feet. I know there's other buildings that are taller than 35, but that wasn't a clerical error. You don't build 7 buildings oversized and say it's a clerical error. I'm sorry. I didn't just fall off a turnip truck. You know, that is not right. So let's get it right. Let's get this right. And what, you know, this is a perfect time for repeal.
1 minute.
Repeal on that. There's other issues there at stake. They didn't meet, they should have repealed when they came in with the 45-foot building. It should have went back, kicked back to Planning Commission. When they said it's 35 with the conditional use that can go taller, there's no conditional use in I-2 to allow it to go taller. I'm sorry, I don't agree with the BOE. I was there at both meetings. You know, and I didn't, whatever. You know, it was, I don't even want to get into that. I'm not going to get into that. I was there, I observed it. But what I'm saying is that was, you can call it a clerical error, but that 35 feet is 35 feet. There's no conditional use, and that would have kicked it back to the Planning Commission. They say whereas. No. And this is the thing. Right now, I think that there's the ability to repeal without threat of lawsuit from Scannell. But I'm not an attorney. And then you get back to the point where you can start working on these things. The zoning, for instance, they got it stabilized, they got in there, it's like grading. They're fixing the stormwater, they're fixing erosion control. I think it's the time the city can do this and work together. They got to, you know, I think it's the point. I don't know all the specifics, but I think the things that I think there's the ability right now to be able to repeal 57-2022 and kick it back to planning
Right.
without any threat to you, to the city.
Your time has expired, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Bill, and I appreciate the extra couple minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank
That's all
you.
we have this evening.
Okay. Next on the agenda is council communications and committee reports. Mr. Bellin?
Thank you. Good evening. The next Public Works meeting will be on Tuesday, November 8th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. The next meeting of the Gulf Advisory Board will be on Tuesday, November 15th here in council chambers. Also, Mrs. Bucci-Gross provided me her report, so I'm going to read that now. The September close, finance is in the process of closing September and will provide the reports once completed. September 2022 income tax revenues. September 2022 income tax receipts total $1,840,292.90 compared to September 2021 receipts in the amount of $1,723,238.71. This reflects an increase of 6.79% or $117,054.19 compared to last year. Year-to-date 2022 income tax receipts total $18,807,852.89 compared to year-to-date 2021 receipts in the amount of $17,616,891.44. This reflects an increase of 6.76% or $1,190,961.45 compared to last year. Refunds in the amount of $96,753.08 are included in the September collections. The net change in distribution for this month for individual, net profit, and withholder collectively is $218,741.90. The next meeting of the Finance Committee will be on Tuesday, November 22nd at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Nothing further this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bellin. Mrs. Walker, would you like to go next?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I did attend our JEDR meeting yesterday, and we broke into breakout sessions, and there's justice and police relations. They gave a report on that. City employment diversity, and the committee that I'm on is the community website. So currently, we're trying to get a website developed, and so people will know more about us. And I just want to give kudos to Shannon. Shannon brought her computer. She had a lot of input that will really help our JEDI committee. So if you're welcome to come, I don't know when our next meeting is, but I'm sure it'll be on the website. So you're more than welcome to come and listen to what some of the new things that we're improving for the city of Twinsburg. That's all I have, Bill. Thank you.
You're welcome. The ARB, I'll go next. Good evening. The Architectural Review Board met on October 6th. There are two cases. both signage. One was Wish Studio, case 22-10-53, passed unanimously, and case 22-1054 was for Sun Studio signage on East Aurora Road, and it also passed unanimously. I do not have the date. Actually, the next date of the next Architecture Review Board meeting will be on October 20th at 6 p.m. in council chambers. This Thursday, October 13th at 5 p.m., the Twinsburg Community Improvement Corporation will meet in council chambers. Monday night, October 10th, I had the opportunity to attend the JEDI meeting. I am part of the Justice and Police Relations Group. We talked about, in the breakout session, we talked about some challenges of that police face when they have, when they pull over, they have to deal with residents or people that they're detaining who don't speak English or don't speak Spanish, or who knows what dialect of Indian are available, because we talked that there's over 1,000 dialects. So one of the challenges is how can we get a tool or an app to assist police officers when nobody speaks the language of the person that they're dealing with. It was recommended that Chief Mason be asked to look into Lexipol, which is a database, my understanding is, because I'm not familiar with it, of policies nationally for police and fire, and that we wanted to first see what's available there. We'd also like to look at what resources the state and the county have, because this is not unique to Twinsburg. Other people have the same challenges. We wanted to see if dispatching, if the software that the dispatchers use, was there a way to have that recognize certain languages and give a closed caption? That I know that software is available because I deal with people in multiple countries, and often we're not speaking English. So we get a closed caption translation that's done on computer software. Don't know how much that costs, but that's available. So those were the things that we were looking at to investigate, to make it, again, easier for police relations to go in a positive manner in the city. We will have, the JEDI Committee is going to have a booth at tomorrow night's police and fire open house that will be from like 5 till 8. 5:30 to 8. Okay, so there'll be people there talking about what we're doing with the JEDI and how, and taking suggestions on how we can better reach out to the public. But the next meeting of the JEDI Committee will be on November 14th at 6 p.m. in council chambers. That's a Monday. Obviously, Mr. Barr's not here tonight, and that's why I'm sitting here. Mr. Barr had 2 items from the Planning Commission that he would like handled this evening. They're conditional use permits. The first one is a conditional use permit for a religious institution. These have all been passed unanimously by our Planning Commission. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of a conditional use permit for a religious institution at 2057 East Aurora Road, Unit 2, pursuant to Section 1155102, and is recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at their September 19th, 2022 meeting. Is there a second? Mrs. Walker seconds. Is there any discussion? Okay. Shannon, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0. There was also a conditional use permit being asked for, I'm getting the address. Nick Castistrano, a resident at 1713 Pine Place, and co-owner of Rawhide Firearms in Mineral Ridge, do they want to do the sales and transfer at the Twinsburg location? It expects to be very limited. The resident is an owner and built a business based on specialty weapons. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit for a home occupation at 1713 Pine Bark Place pursuant to 1151.02 as recommended and approved by the conditions, with conditions, by the Planning Commission at their September 19th, 2022 meeting. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Post seconds. Any discussion?
Can you explain further what it's going to be used?
Well, it looks like this guy's going to be able to sell weapons out of his home, and that the Planning Commission reviewed that and offered it as a conditional use. So,
Mr. Vazana, do you have any insight into that one? Or Mayor?
No, I don't, not at this point.
Okay.
Other than that, I do know that the conditional use application was approved by the planning commission, but I don't have the file in front of me.
I'm not comfortable voting on that.
Yeah, I didn't realize, yeah.
I'm sorry.
okay. So at this time, I'd like to rescind my motion.
Yeah.
And please, at this time, I'd like to rescind my motion and have this come back for us with further documentation.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, thank you.
Discussion, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you. Mr. Post.
Thank you, sir. Last week, there was an environmental commission on October 4th. I was unable to attend due to Yom Kippur services. You went to the meeting for me?
Yes, I did.
Was there anything you wanted to add to that?
The only thing that I can remember, because it's been a long time, that I made a suggestion on McTarrian Drive that for prior to Twins Days, if we could, and I need to talk to the mayor about this too, regarding planting sunflowers up and down on both sides of McTarrian Drive, and possibly work with the Environmental Commission, and they have people that can help plant. If it's approved, then I'll help plant also. And then I was telling one of the commissioners that possibly when we have Twins Days, we could sell the sunflowers, or they could sell the sunflowers, and kind of make some money for the Environmental Commission, and that'll help with their scholarships and all. That's my report. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you for filling in for me while I was unavailable.
Anytime.
I also want to remind everybody that on November 9th at 6:30 at the library, the Environmental Commission is putting on a presentation, and there's a lot of work that they're doing behind the scenes for this. I'm really, really impressed with the Environmental Commission on this. It's called Think Globally, Act Locally, and it's going to talk about environmental practices, waste management, recycling, water stewardship, all kinds of questions and answers. I know Mr. Bonacci is going to reach out to Waste Management, see if we can throw that video there, and maybe even join us to educate the residents on November 9th here at the library. We think that'd be great. We agree on the Environmental Commission that it is all about education, and nothing can happen correct if people aren't educated on the information. And so they're doing a great job at that. And the other thing I want to add is the next Public Works meeting is on, there hasn't been one for a little bit, but the next one is on November 8th. And that is my report. Thank you.
Before you start, Mr. Bellin would like to add us something.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Fury. I just had one correction. I needed to correct myself. I misspoke and I said that Mrs. Buccigrass prepared that report. The Assistant Finance Director, Jennifer Simon, prepared the report. So I just wanted to give credit where credit's due. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Labby.
Thank you. Good evening. I also attended the Jedi meeting last night. I sat on the community outreach committee, as no one from my committee was in attendance. The biggest focus is the Safety Forces open house tomorrow from 5:30 to 8:30, as everyone mentioned. It's a great opportunity. I mean, they've been doing this for years. My kids attended back in the day. I encourage everyone to come out and see what our safety forces have to offer the city, because they're an amazing group. Last week I attended a Twins Days meeting. They are working on the 2023 theme. The official count for twins last August was 2144, and so far for next year, they have 244 sets of twins already signed up. The next meeting will be Wednesday, November 3rd in the Twins Days office. I will attend the CIC meeting Thursday at 5 o'clock in Chambers, and the next meeting of Parks and Rec will be Thursday, the 27th, 6:30 in Chambers. I also wanted to mention some work Angel Keith, the police department is doing for the Twinsburg Community Thanksgiving Dinner, which will be free, and it will be Tuesday, November 22nd from 4 to 7 in the community center. So whether you'd like to make a note of that because you want to attend or you would like to donate, please consider doing so. It's a wonderful idea for the community. Thank you. That's all today.
Thank you. Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. First of all, I want to start out that I attended the active shooter drill at the high school last week. And I'm not going to go into too much depth here because we have 3 chiefs here, and I'm sure one of them are going to talk about it. But from my perspective, it's the first one that I've attended, and it was quite interesting to see how that plays out and how they, all of their roles, they all have a role in this activity, and how the police department, fire department, and how everybody works together, and how the students are there. And they had some, of course, they had actors in the school acting as the victims of the active shooter, and that you heard gunshots, and you heard, it was really, at some points, it was very tense, especially in the beginning when the first gal came out covered in blood, and she was down on the floor. It was really something to see. So I'll probably stop there and let you guys talk about that in your reports. The other thing I wanted to bring up to continue on with the wellness checks that Rebecca and I are doing, we had the opportunity to go to PepsiCo, one of our larger employers here in the city, and we sat down and we talked with them for a little while, and just to get a temperature of how they're doing and what's going on in their business, and how trying to keep them alive and keep them well in our community, and not have them move on for any other reason. Well, we did learn that they're running out of space. They need a larger facility. They're bringing on another line that Pepsi has. That doesn't mean that, and I don't want to put it out there that they're going anywhere. They don't believe they're going anywhere. But I know there's a building that they have their eye on real close to where their building is now, in the city, of course. And so they may be looking to purchase that and expand right here in Twinsburg. So it was nice to sit down. Well, afterwards, we had a really nice tour of the whole facility. And it was amazing to see how, they make all the cans there, they make all the bottles there, and they make all the product there, and they bottle it there, and, just have everything going through all the lines. I mean, it's really was interesting. We had hairnets on our heads, and we had safety vests on, and we had safety glasses on, and it was just something to see, and what a facility that is. And these are the kind of folks, actually all of them, but these are the kind of people that we really want to keep our eye on and keep an open line of communication. And that's what Rebecca and I have been doing the last 3 or 4 months. So very interesting. Real quick, the ribbon cuttings, we did have 2 since the last meeting. Bella Roots Beauty Supply, which opened up in the old Masaros Plaza right down from Paul Mitchell. Nice facility there, a nice new addition to the city, and really nice owner, and they sell, I guess, all types of beauty supplies, and they had hair extensions, they had all kind of stuff in there. So anybody that's interested or needs any hair products, you can go to Bella Roots and check them out. Today we had a really nice one as well. We went to Twinsburg Family Medicine and the Ankle and Foot Center, which opened up on Route 82. If you've seen the building along 82 between the square and between Dunkin' Donuts where the houses are, and the one building that they really renovated, and it looks so nice. If you know what it looked like before and you see what it looks like today, and they did all the work on this building by themselves. And it's really nice inside. We got to see the offices of the podiatry area and the medical area. And there's even an area that they'll do minor surgeries there, for foot surgery, ingrown toes, and so on and so forth. And it was really, it's a nice facility, and they did a great job there. And they're husband and wife, and I wish them the best of luck. And it's just nice to see that no matter what, big or small, we've got new businesses moving into the city of Twinsburg. So this is a desirable place, and I'm glad to see that. I did go out to Grand Village last week, I believe it was. We had a Michaeline Schwett. She turned 100 years old. So I presented her with a little certificate from the city of Twinsburg. And she was a great lady. You'd never know she was 100 years old, I'll tell you that much. She was right on top of everything, and I wished her well, and wished her, many more years, that God blesses her with more years. And she says, I don't want any more years. I'm done. This is it for me. So I asked if, she'd lend me a few years. I'd love to take whatever years she doesn't want. But she was a great lady, and, that's another nice facility there. Just a reminder, we mentioned earlier, the Police and Fire Open House tomorrow, 5:30 to 8 o'clock. Fall Fest is coming up on October 22nd at Glen Chamberlain Park. The Turkey Trot is November 13th, along with Luminosity on the November 26th. Finally, the BZA meeting, we do have one scheduled for Wednesday, October 26th at 6:30. So the Zone of Boarding Appeals will meet right here in the council chambers. Now at this time, I want to mention, we're going to have a little presentation, and Mark Gutowski is going to give it for us. But I've been talking about this reaching out to the residents and connectivity and transparency and so on and so forth. This is the program that I've been talking about, and this will be the first time council seeing it. We already had a preview with the department heads. And I want council to see it tonight, and everybody here will be able to see it as well. But I do want to get council's input. Let me know what you think about it. Let Mark know what you think of it, and if there's anything we need to add or take away. And as far as the residents that are here, please take a look at it. Look at what we're doing. And again, this is just a way. And there's many uses for this, as a matter of fact. We asked to roll it out. Shannon rolled it out last night at the Jedi meeting, that we could have a Jedi page, and just a way to communicate with those folks and to be able to have them take questions and answers. They're looking for public outreach. This is a way to outreach. Same thing with the, like I said, with the zoning codes and with everything. I mean, any projects that are going to be coming up here, not projects that are already done or on the books or in process, you'll see those. We've got a couple examples up there right now of projects that are already in process or complete. But this is going to be an opportunity for the residents. You go and you look on all the social media sites, and I see them. I don't chime into them. Anybody that knows me and follows anything that I do, you'll never see me write in on a social media site, because I'm not really impressed at the answers that are out there. People are fishing, and they want information, and I don't blame them. Everybody wants information. You see something going on in your neighborhood, you want to know what's happening, or you want to know what's coming, and people I see right in there, they're moving to Twinsburg. What's Twinsburg all about? This is not to take place of our website, but this is more dialogue between the residents and the city. The website is just informational. They're pushing out information there. Yes, it is really. That's what it's for. And so it's going to give you an opportunity to see a project that's coming, and let us know what you think of it. Let us know if you have any questions about it. And I think it's going to be a really nice program once you get to see it. And once we get it up and running, there still may be some things that we need to work on, and that's why I'm asking council and I'm asking the residents. If you see anything in there that you think would be beneficial, that you'd like to see, then let us know, and we'll try to work it in there as well. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mark. Great. And Mark's the administrator of this, and Shannon's kind of the sidekick with it, the assistant administrator, and we're going to get it going. So take a look, see what you think.
I know we have a heavy agenda tonight, so I'm going to be a little briefer, more brief than I thought. But this is a online public engagement platform, and it doesn't replace social media, it doesn't replace our website, but it's meant to give the city feedback and pull the residents into the decision-making here. Together Twinsburg, that's our name. We want to do things together. We want input, and this platform hopefully will provide that. It's a very robust platform. On the back end, it has a lot of demographic information that will help us make better decisions. And like I said, I'm going to be brief. I'm just going to give a brief synopsis of what it is. And I think Shannon might get together and maybe have a workshop with council. And I think 2 or 3 weeks we can roll this out, probably closer to the 2 weeks. But the platform is based on projects. Okay, everything we put on here will be a project. Together Twinsburg. The first project is basically what is Together Twinsburg, and it gives you a description. Each project consists of a background, and it consists of a way to get more information, and a call, the more information over here, and then a call to action. We want residents to participate, and we have different tools that will allow them to do that. The tools, are some are an open environment, some are more of a closed environment, like polling and stuff like that, where there really wouldn't be any feedback, but we still want, any two-way feedback, but we still would want that, polling information. But anyways, this example here, again, FAQs on the side. That's one project. I'm going to go a little more in detail about a project that is more complete in terms of the content we have here. The tree restoration grant that council considered on September 27th, I believe, where we applied for a grant to replace some trees at Glen Meadow Park. I wanted to get this example in there because it can show some of the tools that we have here. The tool, the mapping tool here allows us to be very specific on what areas we're talking about planting these trees, for instance. This is Glen Meadow. We're talking about shielding these homes from some of the activity that's taking place at the park, and also shielding, members of, residents who visit the park from some of these homes that, could do better with, I guess, keeping their yards in shape or whatever. But the restoration project will take this from the beginning. Each project will have a contact person who's listening. That's the person that is going to be responsible for responding to residents' questions and keeping this page, their projects up to date. For instance, and this project started with a request for legislation that was presented to council. It tells the nature of the legislation. A lot of the information we have on here is the information that council uses to make their decisions. So we're sharing that in a more open platform. It's been shared on the website, but it's kind of hidden. So we wanted to put this all in one place, so the residents can see and actually know, enough information to base their decisions on also. So the next is the legislation. So we have the legislation posted here. Again, you can read that. We have photos. What do we have here? We have the grant application. It tells a little more about what we're applying to do. And for those wondering, this is a 50-50 grant. We're looking at a grant to pay half the cost of replacing all the very dead trees there. Here are photos of that project site. You can see these trees are in pretty bad shape. So there's just a bunch of tools that we can present to to the public. Okay, I get lost here. Let's see. We could post videos. For instance, this is a video of the September 27th meeting, and I'm not sure if I have the audio on there.
86, 2022.
But the videos showing specifically the discussion that you guys had where you voted on this, kind of give the public some insight onto, hey, what are they thinking when they did this, right? Let's, so all the meetings, if there's 3 readings, we'll have a meeting for each one there, so. Timeline, project timeline, this timeline, we understand for some of the engineering projects, it might change, but, we're going to give an expectation of when this job's gonna be complete. And so, as we click down, you can see, the application was approved, or I'm sorry, the application, the council approved the ordinance. The next step we're waiting for is tomorrow, Friday, when is the deadline, and then we're going to wait for the 29th that we're going to have a grant winner announced, and then if we are the grant winner, we will proceed, spring or summer for that project. Let me see. I'll just talk about the form etiquette and moderation. This form is moderated by human beings 24/7 outside of the city. We don't even know who these people are, but they're moderators that are trained on what's allowed on a form, giving people, respecting everyone's right of free speech and all of that stuff. So how that works is if there's artificial intelligence that will automatically put a pause on a post that contains certain words, okay? We can do that. We don't want swear words and all that. But the 24/7 moderation will allow someone to tag a post. If it gets tagged, they'll send a message to the person who posted it and give them the opportunity to, tell them why it was, taken off, and give them the opportunity to rewrite it and repost it. So, some of the registration information, you only need an email address and a username to use this site. We ask for other information there because we think it's going to be valuable for us. We'd like to know, different segments of the population, how they're being served by the city. And the back end of this, with the artificial intelligence, it's just has the ability to give us so much information. We can look at trending, so stuff that we're going to be able to serve the public better. So. Go back here. Okay. So I think that's it for the project. We are going to have a section in here that we will, there's a lot of rumor out there. We'll address that, those rumors here. Is it true? Is it half true? Is it, completely false? We'll address all that. And again, it's going to be able to have total feedback from the citizens. Some of the other tooling we have here, just basically an idea. Residents can get here, read the information that we have on this tree program, just post an idea. Hey, I have an idea. Instead of doing this, why don't we do this? Or again, when another's, questions. And what happens with this is questions, when they're answered, they will go, all these tools here, we can assign those tools to specific people in their emails. For instance, if a member of council is on the Environmental Commission, and this might be something, this tree grant is under that commission, maybe they want to get updates on every time the city adjusts its timeline, or every time, we add a document, or every time a resident has a question. So that can be all set up that they will automatically get updated on this. We also have the ability to provide all this information to members of council, so that if they have a question from a resident, they can go on here and get all the communication between the city and the resident and be able to answer more specifically in a quicker amount of time. So I think that's, let me just take a quick look here. Moderation we talked about. With that being said, I think, Shannon will get together and see if you guys want to maybe have a work session to decide. I can show you more in depth all the details of what else we can do. You guys decide how we want. You're the ones who are interfacing with the residents. how do you want to use this? We'll show you all the tools and set that standard before we, make this public. So with that being said, any questions?
Is that a website?
What's that?
What format is that? Is it a website?
Yes, this is a website. It's actually a subdomain of mytwinsburg.com. We do have a direct link that will be togethertwinsburg.com, which will take you directly to the site, the platform here.
Thank you.
So.
And what the I'm sorry.
No, did you build that?
Shannon and I put this together, the forums, but this is a pretty robust platform that's all these tools are already included. So,
super impressed. Super impressed. It is a great idea, and I applaud the time and effort it took to put that together. My question is when there's questions that goes from the residents, who is actually specifically answering those questions? Or is that just not, or are we still in the development phases of that? Because,
right.
Someone could be inundated with questions,
Right.
and it could become a full-time job.
Right. No. We have the ability to, for instance, this whole project, any communication whatsoever with this tree restoration grant, whether it's updated by the city or an employee, or it's a question asked by the resident, we have the ability to take that whole overall project and put someone's email address in there, or 2 or 3 or 4 people who want to be updated on every single thing with that project. Or anything that the city updates, you can just get access to that, or any of these specific things. If someone posts an idea, we can just shoot these ideas over to you by email. So again, general questions are going to go to this person who's listening here. The person, the employee of the city that's responsible for this project. So yeah, it's a little hard to see, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. That's a little better. And the other thing too is, hopefully what we see here is you'll see that these social media links are here for basically everything on here, specific questions, documents. So if it's hard to monitor, Facebook and be consistent. We have an issue with, some employees like to respond unofficially on some stuff on Facebook, and is it a private discussion or are you representing the city? So we want to keep, the idea is to keep that consistent, and by doing that, we can already grab a viewpoint on here, share it automatically to Facebook in response to someone's question, say, hey, we got that document posted already, here it is, boom. So that's, I think, going to be very valuable to us as well. So.
Is there a Facebook page that would be called like Together Twinsburg maybe, that would, this stuff, when you want to link it, could go right to that page? Is that?
No, that's not the plan. That's not the plan. This is a completely separate platform that will interface, and it allows us to take any part of this. If it's not social media, say I wanted to put some of this on mytwinsburg.com, I can go in here and easily capture the code for this page, dump it right into our city website. When this gets changed, that would automatically get changed. So it's overall, we want this to be the communications, for the city.
Right.
That's
great.
So.
It's great.
We want them to reach out to City Hall, and where they'll get, accurate information opposed to one another, where they may not have the most accurate information or the most up-to-date information at the time. And when they do that, that's why it was rolled out to the departments first, because it's going to take a little work on their part. But we're looking to have responses within 24 to 36 hours. So, you're not going to wait a week, you're not going to wait 4 days. You're going to get a response from whatever question, and whoever's being directed to answer that question, within 24 to 36 hours, you will have a response back. And it's going to be a response that, City Hall will stand behind and could live with.
Right.
That's exactly the accurate thing. That's what's happening. And that's the same thing with projects that are coming. We want to hear from the residents and what the residents think about it, and if they have any thoughts or ideas, That doesn't mean we're going to change everything always, but there's times that we may, because there may be something that we hadn't thought about.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's the residents that are going to be using whatever we're doing out there. That's where we thought it was important. And I want to really give a shout out to Mark, because when I came on board and we sat down and talked about this, Mark was given the task to go ahead and find something for us to use. And, he did a lot of looking around and a lot of shopping. And this is the format that we found that we thought would fit us well. There's another one out here that another city uses, and theirs is called Bang the Table. Unfortunately, we couldn't use that. I love that. I really like that name, but we couldn't use it, and so we thought we'd bring us together. And then the best part about that is about the facts. Are you? What was that one, Mark? Yeah.
What the fact?
Yeah, what the fact. It's like when he said, when you see something or hear something out there, or we do, we're going to post it there, and it's going to be under what the fact, and that's going to be the fact. That's what it's going to really be all about, not what you may be reading somewhere else on social media that is not the fact. So you will get facts here, and you'll get answers here, right. And you will be responded to, and you will have an opportunity to weigh in and let us know what you're thinking, whether good or bad, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, and I'm excited.
Thank you, Mark. I
Once we
appreciate
get
it.
this used for a while and get a database built up, the artificial intelligence gathers that information, and we're able to actually look at the sentiment of the community based on certain words we can put in, and it will tell us, generate a sentiment report saying how people feel about certain things, and things I think would be pretty valuable. Shannon, do you have anything to add?
I think you covered all of it.
Okay, great. Anything else?
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
One more comment, the last quick comment, I know, whatever. The only thing that I want to throw caution to, and I'm sure you guys have all thought about this, the problem with social media is everybody starts putting their opinions on social media, and most of the people that talk on social media do have no idea what they're talking about. And again, they don't know what they're talking about many times. Not everybody, many people are very educated, but many people are, and again, I'm like you, I do not get involved on social media because I do not want to, if I say something, I'm just going to get attacked. From the position I think we sit in many times, we can't win, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter our thoughts. And so I just want to make sure that somehow we can figure out a way to make this not become a back and forth social media type platform if people are able to comment. I just want to make sure that, you know what I mean? As much as I want it transparent, I don't want it to become as people are able to comment, I don't want to see it become, I don't want to say social media garbage, but a lot of social media, just anyone can say anything on social media, and I just want to make sure it doesn't do that, so it stays on the up and up and always takes the high road, as the city always does.
Right.
So.
I believe, Mark, you said there was a filter for that.
Right, yeah, there's a lot of tools to prevent all that from happening.
Right.
I don't think that's the approach.
I think that's something good we can kind of go over and show you guys during a work session where we have a little bit more time and to dive into that a little bit more.
Right.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Really, great job.
Thank you, Mark. That's all I have. That's the end of my report.
Then, Mr. Mayor Scafidi, would you like to take the mayor's report?
Well, that was the mayor's.
Okay. Do you have any department heads you want to have come up?
First, we're going to have Ski from the Public Works Department. Dennis Sudlowski.
Real name.
Good evening, Council. First, I want to start off with our LEAP program. We're slated to start October 17th, and we're going to run continuously through December. And we all know what happens in December. Snow starts flying, but we're going to continue going as far as we can. With the snow, if we can't see the piles, we can't pick them up. So we'll do our best. Branch chipping for the month of September, we completed one round. We picked up 135 yards of chips and serviced 417 homes. So to date, I mean, a lot of people don't think this is a lot of chips, but we picked up 903.75 yards of chips and serviced 3,126 homes. So, I mean, people are utilizing the program, which makes our jobs more important. Streetlight outages. I've been working with just one contact over at Ohio Edison. It's really paid off. Bill, I think you mentioned something about that one at the golf course. It took forever.
I will tell you that I had a resident just today who lives on 82 comment that, who actually contacted me a year ago to say how we had hundreds of them out and complimented the service department on working with Ohio Edison to get those cleaned up. It used to take a year. Now it takes a few weeks.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to start our next round here in December, a whole sweep of the whole city. But as of right now, I have 3 on the list for inspections through my guys, and then they'll go to Ohio Edison for repairs. For the month of September, we had 3 outages. Those have been repaired in a timely manner. So to date, we have 122 bulbs that have been replaced, 9 heads have been replaced, and 6 wiring faults have been repaired. With the damaged poles, of course, that takes a little bit longer. It's a different crew, so it's all about materials as well. My mechanics right now have been very busy setting up our snow and ice trucks. I know nobody wants to hear about that yet, but it's coming, I hate to say it. As well as our leaf boxes. So there's no delays in our programs whatsoever. And that's pretty much all I have for this evening.
Good. So I got a question. So we had a resident, we get the emails from the Ethan's Green Homeowners Association. We just got an email from someone who says the light is out. And I forwarded that to our property manager over there in Ethan's Green. Sounds to me like it might be a lot faster to go directly through you.
100%, yeah.
So I'm going to actually send you an email tomorrow. My question is, so would the best way to say to the resident, they gave the locations, the corner of this and this. There's on every post, there's a number, is that correct?
No, it's not true. The wooden poles, yes. The fiberglass, absolutely not.
Okay, so that is just a location. That was what I wanted to know, because I want to, I was asked the resident to get the number if those had them. I've never seen a number on those. I just didn't know if it was in a place that I'm not looking or.
I actually requested Ohio Edison to put those on there. They said it's too much work.
Well, there you go.
Is that the one over there by Wallingford?
I'm looking up the address right now as we're speaking.
It's on Glenwood Drive, 3rd pole on the left on Wallingford.
I'm looking up right now, actually. It just came in. All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Steve, I have one thing. I need you to please call our contact. And if I got to look at that pole at the corner of Ravenna and Chamberlain anymore, that's cracked in half. We had him in here. We all sat in there and we talked to him. He assured us he was going to take care of these. And truly, my patience is running out. And we're getting complaints. I know I've had them, Mr. Fury's had them, and we're sick of looking at that pole. And I want to know, truthfully, when that does come down, and it will, who's going to be liable for that? Who's liable for that, Matt? Do you know? Because they you know, their thing is that there's still a utility on their pole and they can't take it down. Well, as you heard me in the meeting, well, that's your pole. You allowed a utility to go on there, okay? Don't you know who's on that pole? And you get them to take their utility off because somebody's got a liability sitting out there. And it's certainly not going to be the city. Okay, at least I'm hoping. Okay? So, yeah.
I'll reach out to them again tomorrow.
Short, and I know that the residents' patients are running short. I hear it all the time, and so do other council people.
Yeah, it took us a while to find out whose pole that actually was, whose utilities on there.
Well, we know whose pole it was, but now there's still utility on it.
It's Windstream.
And so it's got Windstream.
Yeah. Okay,
well then, we need to get a hold of Windstream. And why don't you have Windstream come here and stand here and talk to us next time at the next council meeting? That's what I would like to see.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, we'll get the residents in here too that really have an issue.
Okay.
And let's see what their answer is.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you so much.
I got an address here. It's at Burton and Marino.
Oh, okay.
Burton and Marino.
Okay, I'll check out that
Great,
tomorrow.
thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Council.
Okay, next we have Chief Mason.
See if I can change that.
It's Bailey's. I know you out there. They work on the steel shit.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening, all. How will I put the sign?
My report for September is fairly brief. Couple numbers of interest here. The total calls for service for the month were 2,508. That brings us to a total of 20,623 calls for service between police and fire for the year. Of those calls this month, some numbers of interest. We had 8 counts of theft, 9 counts of possession of drugs, 27 for driving under suspension or without a valid license, 13 for operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drugs, 14 warrant arrests, and a total of 171 criminal counts, of which 126 people were involved in. 94 written warnings were given for the month as well. As far as accident crashes go, we had a total of 40 crashes that were investigated. 29 were non-injury, 9 were injury. Private property consisted of 4 of those, and none were fatal. Couple items of note, as it was mentioned, I believe I mentioned it last meeting. I think it fell on Detective Kopniski's last day in the ordinance, or his service weapon was, you guys agreed to give that to him. So he retired after 33 years of service with us last month. And as far as a couple other things, some good news. Many of you know that Nate Milhone is the school resource officer at the middle school. He started this year. He took the place of Dan Beato, Sergeant Beato, and he got promoted. So I had the pleasure of going to Nate's graduation on the 30th from DARE school. And, you know, the DARE program's still going strong. It's a pretty intense class they go to. We're lucky to get him in. They only offer 1 per year throughout the state. So he was in class with, I think it was about 30 officers from all over the states. It's a 2-week class. It's pretty intense. They do a lot of stuff at night, a lot of team bonding, and he's good to go. So he graduated on the 30th, and the next day he was at work. He started the DARE classes. I'm also very pleased to announce we got a couple of promotions coming up. Sergeant Bob Waltz, who many of you know, he's going to be promoted to lieutenant. He's going to be patrol lieutenant, and that's going to be effective later this month, the 28th. And then Officer Jeremy Mahork is going to be promoted to sergeant, and that is going to be effective on the 17th of this month. And that's it for my report.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, Ms.
Could
Walker.
I say something, please?
Sure, Mrs.
Okay,
Walker.
all right. In Ward 2 on Andrew Drive, I've been getting complaints from the residents that cars are speeding down Andrew Drive to get to Shepherd Road. And I went down there last week and to just see if I saw any speeders, and I did see a couple of speeders, and they were going at least 35. Is there any way you could put like maybe a flashing 25 miles per hour sign or something?
Yeah, absolutely. What we can do is we can have some officers increase the patrol in the area, monitor the area, and then we call them radar signs. We have some portable radar signs that we can mount that will show you your speed. It'll flash if you're exceeding the speed limit. And what that does, it records everybody that activates that sign. The data is recorded. We'll keep it deployed for a period of 1 to 3 weeks, and then we download that data, and then we can actually determine what the speeds are, the time of day that the speeds are highest, things like that.
Okay.
You know, often, and people are not wrong, you know, people do speed. Sometimes perception is their reality, and what this does, it gives us an actual report that says, this was your fastest car, or this is your fastest speed. This is how many cars are exceeding the speed limit by this much. This is the time of day they're doing it. This is the volume of traffic you have on that road. So it's a great tool, and we deploy that throughout the city.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely, we can do that as well.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief Morgan.
Good evening. In the month of September, the fire department responded to 298 calls for service. That brings us up to 2,805 for the year, monthly average of 312, which is about 30 calls more per month than last year's average. And about 31% of the time we have overlapping calls. We completed 38 fire inspections of different scope, and also 3 fire investigations. We completed 127 training classes, totaling almost 500 hours of training during the course of the month. And we also had several hours of public education where we contacted about 75 different individuals. Some points of interest: the weather warning sirens. We continue to test those, and September and August and September's both, since August was a little bit late due to Twins Days, and I wasn't able to report, but we still have the issues with the sirens on Liberty Road. And this past month, we also had an issue with the one on Ravenna Road in the township. Personnel-wise, fortunately, we had the opportunity to hire 2 more personnel. Part-time personnel, they were Michael Kapowski and Christian Boback were added to the staff this past month. Unfortunately, we also had 1 part-timer resign due to time commitment issues. He also was promoted to lieutenant at his full-time position in East Cleveland, and that was Tim Seeger, resigned from the department. Notable events. The most notable here recent has already been mentioned is that we have an upcoming open house tomorrow. Thank you all for mentioning that. We look forward to all the visitors. But also we did have the active shooter exercise last Wednesday. I want to thank the schools for working with us on that. But I'm going to have Chief Basso come up and give an overview of how that went.
Thanks, Chief. Is that the right one? Okay, let's see. How it's loud, looks a little different. Good evening. To give you some perspective, the timeline, 4 months ago in June, Chief Mason, Chief Morgan, Lieutenant Donato, and myself met with, I believe Chad was still with Twinsburg City Schools. Matt hadn't started yet, and Kathy Powers to do our annual review of the school's plan. During that conversation, it was 3 weeks past Uvalde. It was still in the public sentiment. So we were talking about our we used to have drills, full scale, where we'd get everybody together, and we did active shooter about 5-6 years ago. We lost track really because COVID, all that stuff that we had planned just didn't take place. But at the same time, we also realized that a lot of people have been hired the last time we did this, so we have a lot of fresh faces in police and fire. I walk. I can hear me. Okay. So we decided it was actually the school district requested that we have the drill. They approached us, so it was like, yes, definitely. 4 months is not a lot of time. So we decided, I did some research. I worked with a contractor before that did disasters for the city of Talmadge. We reached out, we got some pricing. The city and the schools did partnership where we split the cost. The $8,000 that we spent was all the fire department training budget, which is money well spent, as you can see by some of the results here. This is called an active shooter hostile event response. That's an ASHER is the acronym for it. That's a FEMA term. So it's sad to say it's a thing. It's actually in academia and everything else. So some of the partners, Armada Limited, they're based in Powell, Ohio, which is down by Columbus. Great staff of people from public safety that are very good at disaster planning, designing, implementation of full-scale exercises, tabletops, and just evaluating safety plans. Of course, the city of Twinsburg, Twinsburg City Schools, the police, fire, dispatch, CERT, city of Remarndaville, university hospitals, tactical medicine, and university hospitals, medical control. There's 2 different parts of that. And then, of course, Cleveland Clinic contracts with the schools, and they have a medical receiving facility here in Twinsburg. And then we're lucky enough to have the traumatic players of Cleveland come in. I think Cleveland Clinic and University Hospital split the cost of that. They were really, really good about it. So here's some logos from the partners, because I like doing logos. Design team, Lee Foster from Armada, Kathy Powers, myself. Matt Strickland was thrown right into the fire as soon as he was hired. He learned a lot during this whole project. Joe Sugar, one of our fire medics, also is University Hospital's tactical medical coordinator. So he's a Metro, he's the lead medic for Metro SWAT, but he also teaches and evaluates Rescue Task Force, which is the fire version of we go in when the shooter is still in the building, may not be in a warm zone, not a hot zone, we go with a police escort. So there's a big, there's a lot of training that goes involved with that, and you'll see some of these photos coming up, how that works. We had Eric Sawyer, Sergeant Eric Sawyer from the police department, and the soon-to-be promoted Sergeant Waltz was his counterpart. Some evaluators, we had some really good evaluators. Dr. Cooper, who was a retired fire chief, he ran the state fire marshal's office for a while. He is currently the business manager for the city of Talmadge. He was an evaluator. Dr. Dare, our medical control advisor for the city of Twinsburg. Don Zimmerman from the University Hospitals. Captain Sergi Lash from Akron Fire. Tommy Smoot, EMA director. A lot of guys from the Summit County EMA Health Department. Chris Jen, Matt Harmon, Brad McDougall, Anthony Fairbanks, and Brad Wilson. All are full-time firefighters somewhere else, but they all work for University Hospitals Tactical Medicine. So they're the instructors for Rescue Task Force. And it should be noted, Brad is also a police officer. It was really valuable having it. He's cross-trained as a police officer and a paramedic. So here's what we were evaluated on. 32 core capabilities are FEMA's. If your community can cover all 32 core capabilities, you got a really good, safe community. We didn't want to take a big piece of the pie, so they suggested just test 4. So the school district and I got together, and we decided mass care, because they wanted to test their student reunification. They had a paper plan. They wanted to make sure they exercised and see how that worked out. Next up was operational coordination. That's when police, fire, schools, and everybody else that has a dog in the hunt gets together and does a unified command. Underneath that was also a rescue task force. That was the piece that we got evaluated on as the fire and EMS, how well we performed rescue task force. And I'll show you some photos of something that just dawned on me while I was looking at the photos, and you'll be pretty impressed, I'm pretty sure. And then the public health care and emergency services, which is triage, victim removal, treatment, and transport. And then above that, of course, is public health and warning, which is mass communication, whether you're using Civic Ready, Connexus, or Blackboard Connect, whatever the school's using, and getting that same message out virtually simultaneously. And we'll show you how that was, how that played out. Some fast facts: 200 volunteers. This was a day-to-day. There was no students in school, but the staff had to report, so all the kids signed up to be student actors. They were not any we did not have any students act as casualties. We hired professional actors. They did. So I think it was very beneficial to do that. We had police units stop the threat within 8 minutes of the entry. 8 minutes. Fire and EMS, after they got the rescue task force, the okay by the police to go in and start treating and removing victims, we cleared all the victims within 55 minutes. That means they were transported within 55 minutes. Now that was very impressive. And this, when you see the photos, there was no, they were hauling around live victims, up and down steps. They were doing the work. And they were doing the trauma. They were getting evaluated on these wounds look real. They had to treat those wounds as they look, or as the symptoms presented themselves. If you had a guy in shock, he was acting in shock. So it was pretty amazing. So that guy, Matt, he didn't talk, he was acting. He was in shock. And it wasn't until somebody came up to him and talked to him. I think I saw the picture where he's walking out. I think that's in this bunch. We can't thank the mutual aid units enough with how busy everybody is. Northfield Village sent us 2. They sent us 2 med units and 4 people, so we really appreciate that. The list is up here on who else was here. And we had observers from the city of Akron, police and fire, and that's notable because they started their own ASHER training 6 months ago, where every Akron fire and every Akron police officer worked together to do the rescue task force training. So they were curious about how we did things up north. Okay, so it's always nice to have everybody else's perspective, so I'm waiting on some return emails from Chief O'Neill to hopefully show up. The command staff that day, if you notice, there was a fire lieutenant in charge. The way the fire department, the way we do it, we've always done it. You're not going to learn anything if we take command from people. If I go and automatically assume command over a lower ranking officer, we plug in next to them. We're there to guide them. As you see, Tim Morgan was there too, but he plugged in as a fire EMS operations guy. That way, Joe can focus on being the incident commander. Tom Mason and Brian Donato both did law enforcement operations, and Brian doubled as the PIO. Kathy Powers did double duty. She's part of the design team, but she was kept in the dark about a lot of stuff because we knew she was going to play that day. And she also doubles as, there's no PIO for the school district, so she doubles as that communications officer. So the challenge for them was to all find each other, right? Find each other as soon as you can to get that unified command going, and we were pretty pleased how that turned out. You also had Lieutenant Mike Perlotti, who was the lead PIO. When I leave, eventually he's going to be taking over. He's protege, I guess, if you want to call him. He's trained up, and he did a remarkable job. I'll go over that later. And then we had John Houston, who ran CERT and volunteer operations. So John Houston, all those people were at that command car, which was the fire department's SUV. Here's some mutual aid other help. Northfield, like I said, they sent 2 medics units with 4 members. Macedonia, Solon, Streetsboro, Aurora, each sent an ambulance with 2 medics. Some other people to thank Mark for we created a fake messaging group so that we can time, you get your mayor messages about the trash being late and stuff like that. We simulated the group text to the entire community, but only the evaluators and observers got it. We didn't want to induce panic and tell everybody that there's stuff going on. So Mark appreciate that message group. Also displaying the sign. Kayla Pickens did the same thing with fitness. Chris Barker, they brought a whole bunch of signs out from Summit County Health. So notably, we should remember that those are always available to us. So service, you need extra signs. Police, we need extra signs. And fire, digital signs, they can bring them out and help us. Dennis from Community Focus and Marty, they were the photographers and videographers. Some various observers. This is the old version of this because Bill Gurney is on the current version. Bill was observer at the site, so he's just not on this slide. So we have Sam, Karen, Matt, and Shannon were there, and they were in the Commons area. And I apologize to Bill when I got here. Through some misunderstanding, I wasn't there. They could have walked anywhere within the campus as observers. So we're sorry that you didn't leave the Commons area. So I heard about that guy with the sling sitting there from 4 people, because you all saw the same guy. He did get treated, okay. But thank you for coming. Paul Solinsky and another from Macedonia Fire, Kevin Grip, Streetsboro, they wanted to see how we did things here. And there's those Akron guys that we talked about that wanted to see how we did things. Just as a note, they're really good moulage artists, really good actors, so this stuff looks real, okay? So some images may be disturbing, but they are certainly all simulated. This is tame. This is just Lee Foster with his big cup of coffee giving instructions. That's part of the Commons. There were so many people there, so there's only, just a slight picture of it. Here's some assets pre-staged. This is all up by the pool area. I released those. That was my only job. I was not part of the drill. I was not in play. I was just invisible, but my job was to release our mutual aid units in real time, meaning we know their drive times. We know how long it takes to get from Aurora to the high school. We did pre-drive times. So, for instance, Aurora and Streetsboro are way down here. They didn't get to the scene until 20 minutes later. So we made sure we made it realistic. There's some police officers pre-staged, and then there's some bus pre-staged. And they were released real time, hopefully. Here we go. These are 2 of our police officers acting as the shooters. Some of the entry. If you pay attention, look at some of the faces in these photos. We had an amazing photographer come out. This is stressful for the staff of the high school. The only people that wasn't stressful for is probably observers and the actors. Okay, but everybody else, the responders, the staff, you get emotional. You see kids running from a building, you see this kind of stuff, and it's hectic. You're being graded, not graded, but sort of being watched by a lot of people. But look at their faces, how intent they are. This is after the shooter's down, so what do? They go to their remote. They carry kits where they can stop the bleed, do tourniquets, get walking wounded. Hey, are you okay? Can you walk? Get the most injured, get the people out of the way so we can get to the most injured. This is the rescue task force I talked about. We have 2 fire department medics, and we have the best ballistic vests and helmets to go with. And we are going in to do triage now with police officers escorting the way. Okay, there's some more pictures of Rescue Task Force. Now pay attention to these 2 guys. This is Mike and that's Brent. And look at the victim. Okay, they're checking for a head wound, right? I just noticed this during the council meeting. There's Mark getting his victim. There's Mike and Brent again. That's a different victim. They are moving. They are just moving down the hallway to each victim, and there they are again, another victim. All right, then they got their, of course, they're covered by law enforcement. Then we have victim removal. There's some Northfield Village guys. They have Rescue Task Force stuff as well. They don't have ballistic helmets. They have the vests. And there's Morgan and I think Lieutenant Lofton starting to do victim removal. And there's Mike and Brent doing victim removal now. So they went through a sweep of triage, went back out, started hauling people out. And if you notice these are steps. They didn't use the elevator, folks. They went in and they are hauling live patients, which are very heavy, up and down steps, sometimes 1, 2, 3 times. They had safety officers here to make sure that we did not wear anybody out. It is a training. We didn't want real-time injuries or accidents. There's some more pictures of outside once they cleared. Some CERT members, they were really integral to the whole operations. Our CERT teams are trained at triage and transports and logistics, and I didn't know that they would be pressed into service as triage, but I'm very proud to say that they were, and they really did help. They worked right alongside the medics to evaluate, to remove patients, and get that whole unified command going. Some notable things, there's fatality on, there's a black triage tag there, and there's some more pictures of people being moved out. Derek's face says it all. They're moving. You can't see Willie. Willie's a sweater, and he was just sweating, just so bad. And I go, dude, take a break. And they go, no, it's his only. He always does this. He does this tying his shoes. I go, oh, okay, he's a sweater. But these guys and gals just worked so hard, and like it was a real thing. You know, I was very proud. That's Joe D'Ambrosia. That's the SUV. That's our command car, and that was where the command post was. Doesn't have to be a big building or a big bus. The bus was there, but they were getting a lot of work done behind that SUV. Okay, you see some pictures. There's Tom joining in. There's Kathy talking to Mike Perlotti, the PIO, getting those messages out, getting them out rapidly, agreeing on the message. Messages shipped constantly during emergency. You know, stay away. We want you to stay away. The next one was, here's where you go to get your kids. Then they announced extra points for Mike and Kathy. They even enabled the Summit County Public Information Officer Work Group to come. They also verbalized having a joint information center in this building, which means multiple PIOs coming in to help monitor, help with anything that they could with public information. And they also wanted to have a mock press conference. That wasn't expected. So we did it. We did a mock press conference with them. So I was very proud of that fact. There's their mock press conference. This is on my phone, but it just shows, it didn't do timestamps. This is the first one. And it was within 6 minutes, the first message went out. This was done from the scene. I have software on my phone. We have the great, Mark and his toys over there benefit us so much. I can text from my phone, everybody in this room, every home, during an emergency like that. So this is a test of that. So they pushed the right buttons, they had the right messages go out, and you see the messages shifted. This is Reminderville's Recreational Activity Center, and that was Reminderville Athletic Complex. Sorry, that's what it stands for. Don't want to name it wrong. That is the reunification center where the kids and the parents are reunited. So our CERT members did, there's 25 people that showed up, and you notice towards the end, there's a picture of them. They're not all together because they were split. They were at the rack, they were at the high school, they were behind fire department, working out of the trailer, doing comms, they were doing all sorts of stuff. And there's some of the staging at the high school, what it looked like. Hope you never see that again. The photographer was amazing. There's some of our CERT members. But But that's really all I have. I mean, the takeaways that we have another session, which is the evaluation portion. We'll be online with probably a Teams meeting with Lee and the other partners to see what the evaluator said about us. We know, we had a discussion at staff meeting yesterday and amongst ourselves. From the outside, you think it went really great, but there's little tiny things that we could always do better. And one of the items was our access to the schools. It's great having the superintendent there, seeing that our IDs won't open the door. Well, I thought that was taken care of. Well, guess what? It's not. So that's being worked on. So our officers, like Tom joked, can't get in the door. Our IDs won't work. We'll get in the door. They're going to drive a car through it, or fireman is going to use a tool. We're going to take the door out. So we'll get into school. But I think I was very pleased with the, I can't speak on reunification. I wasn't there. I haven't heard any kids that didn't make it back. So apparently it worked out. But I was really pleased with the rescue task force, the command and control. I think Tom and Brian, you guys did an amazing job. And I judged that on radio traffic. The most radio traffic was dispatched probably the first 7 minutes, where they're saying there's a shooter in school. Here's where he is. Here's how many victims. Go in this door. And after that, it quieted down. And here's why it quiets down, because people are making face-to-face decisions on scene, and they're giving clear instructions to their crews. So if you're listening on the scanner for all sorts of confusion, you're not going to hear it, because we made sure that, when our med unit pulls up on this, they're no longer a med unit. The personnel, they have to flip over to be triage. Everybody in that unit, that ambulance has another job now. They're not going to be transporting anybody. Those are the guys that are doing rescue task force. That's why you need all those other med units to do, paramedic stuff. So the messaging was amazing. Command and control, the PIO stuff was good, and like I said, nobody was lost, so reunification apparently worked. But I'm sure that every aspect, there's something that we always do better at. So, any questions? Any questions from the board? Thanks. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, are we done with reports?
Yeah, I was just telling those guys if they wanted to go, they can go.
Stay. This is the fun part. Okay. Next on our agenda is legislation. We'll start with Ordinance 83, 2022.
An ordinance establishing a fixed asset policy for the city of Twinsburg.
I make a motion to adopt Ordinance 83, 2022. Is there a second?
I will second.
Mrs. Labby seconds. Is there any discussion? Shannon, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 83, 2022 passes 6-0. Ordinance 89, 2022.
An ordinance accepting the bid of Cintas Corporation for the uniform and floor mat rental services and declaring an emergency.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place Ordinance 89, 2022 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second. I'll yield.
Mrs. Walker seconds. The reason for the emergency is this is for mats and uniforms, and we want to get the contract in place as soon as possible. Are there any other questions or discussion? Shannon, would you call the roll for the emergency, please?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Okay. The emergency clause passes. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 89, 2022 as an emergency. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Any further discussion? Shannon, call the roll, please.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ordinance 89, 2022 passes as an emergency 6-0. Resolution 90, 2022.
A resolution authorizing the transfer of service weapon serial number 55B006441 to retired police detective Greg Kubniski as an honorarium for his many years of service to the city of Twinsburg.
I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 90, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Any further discussion? It's standard that when a police officer retires from the city of Twinsburg that we retire the weapon with them. Shannon, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 90, 2022 passes 6-0. Ordinance 91, 2022.
An ordinance accepting the lands and improvements dedicated to public use for the Whispering Woods Phase 3 subdivision and accepting the maintenance guarantee and reducing the performance guarantee accordingly and declaring an emergency.
Okay, we discussed this earlier in caucus. There are some questions we have, and we were going to have 3 readings, even though this was going to go on an emergency. So right now, Ordinance 91, 2022 stands on its first reading. Ordinance 92, 2022.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the general revenue account as established in Ordinance 15, 2022, the appropriation ordinance for the city of Twinsburg for the year 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place Ordinance 92, 2022 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. The reason for the emergency is we need to put money into 2 counts, and we want to do that as soon as possible, so that's why we have an emergency. Is there any further discussion on the emergency? Shannon, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Okay. The emergency clause passes 6-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 92, 2022 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Is there any further discussion on this ordinance? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Okay, Ordinance 92, 2022 passes 6-0 as an emergency. Ordinance 93, 2022.
An ordinance amending Ordinance 59, 2022 to reflect vehicle and equipment pricing adjustments for the purchase of a service department vehicle and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and place Ordinance 93, 2022 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. The reason for the emergency is that we want to get the truck fixed for the service department, and we need to put additional monies in the account that we just did on the last motion or ordinance, and we want to buy the truck as soon as possible. Is there any further discussion on the emergency? Shannon, would you call the roll on the emergency, please?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause passes 6-0. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 93, 2022 as an emergency. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Is there any further discussion on 93, 2022? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 93, 2022 passes as an emergency 6-0. That concludes the legislative portion of tonight's meeting. We're going to unfinished business, new minutes, and miscellaneous. Mr. Bellin, do you have any?
Nothing further this evening. Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Walker?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Post?
A couple things. The Rotary is doing Flags for Hunger in the through the Rotary. You can order flags. They're going to line McTiernan Road with flags, and you can adopt a flag for $10. And the flags will be up on McTiernan from October 8th through October 15th. It's $10, and the money goes to our community hunger center. I mean, we can talk. There's no time that they're like, oh, we're good on donations. They are always in need of donations. Always, always, always. So whether you buy a flag, don't buy a flag, it's always good to help out. And all the money's going to go right to them. It'll be $1,000. Hopefully we'll raise more than that. And you can go to Rotary Club of Twinsburg Square site. If you Google Rotary Club of Twinsburg, it'll also take you there. I know if you go on the Twinsburg Talk, I know that it is pinned at the top as well. And so you could see that. So there's all different ways to get involved with that or the Rotary, and that's a great thing. I just want to also say to Steve Basso, that the amount of work and the undertaking that must have been to make that happen must have been insane. And it's sad that we even have to do that in the first place. It's so sad that, I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in another country, and I was telling her about this, and she was, what do you mean you prepare and you have Alice drills? She never even heard of that. She said it's so unheard of where they live that would even happen. It's just so sad. So bravo to Twinsburg for really stepping up and doing a great job with that. I'm so impressed by that. So I wish I could have been there. Had to be at my school. So, all right, thanks.
All right, Mrs. Labby?
Yeah, I'll echo that. I was there, and I had my vested interest as my daughter's a teacher, so I wanted to see what they go through. It's very stressful, and as a parent, and having a daughter as a teacher, the whole situation is it just brings it back to, it could happen to anyone. It could happen anywhere. It doesn't matter where you live, so very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Scafidi.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Van Zanna.
Nothing further this evening, thank you.
Mrs. Collins.
Nothing, thank you.
And I have nothing either. So at this time, I'd like to adjourn tonight's...
We got to excuse
Oh,
Scott.
I apologize. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Scott Barr. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Is there any discussion? He's sick.
Vote no.
It's
What
been...
happens if we all vote no? It's a real question. I want to know what would happen if we all voted no.
He's unexcused, though.
It's unexcused.
So if he has 3 unexcused absences, he can be removed from council.
Consecutive.
It's what?
Consecutive.
3 consecutive.
Unexcused absence.
So this is excusing him, so it's not an unexcused absence.
I talked to him this
The
afternoon.
teacher understands an unexcused absence.
He's really sick, so...
No, yeah. For sure. That makes sense. I've always just wondered what it means to excuse them. So it's clarified that it's not unexcused. That's fair. Okay. Thank you for answering that. A really legit question I wanted to know.
It's okay. We'll still let Shannon call the roll.
Right.
Unless there's any more discussion on excusing or not excusing Scott Barr.
What about tardies? Go ahead, call the roll.
Mr. Fury.
Yes.
Mr. Bellin.
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi.
Yes.
Mrs. Labby.
Yes.
Mrs. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Post.
Yes.
This time I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Fury.
Yep.
Mr. Bellin.
Yes.
Mr. Post.
Yes.
Mrs. Walker.
Yes.
Mrs. Labby.
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Our meeting's adjourned.